Hi again guys, this is going to be a shorter video. I'm going to read it off notes that I've written, just to save any mucking about, getting sidetracked, etc. So I shall begin. This is regards the EU and the plan for the EU from the start. So there was a secret document, FCO 301048, that kept truth about the EU from the British people for 30 years. Almost all of the shocking predictions, from the loss of British sovereignty to monetary union and the overarching powers of European courts, have come true. But damningly, for Tory Prime Minister Edward Heath and all those who kept quiet about the findings in the early 70s, the document known as FCO 301048 was locked away under Official Secrets Act rules for almost 5 decades. The classified paper, dated April 1971, suggested the government should keep the British public in the dark about what EEC membership entails, predicting that it would take 30 years for voters to realise what was happening, by which time it would be too late to leave it. Now, the last detail was the only thing that this paper, which was prepared for the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, got wrong. The unknown author, a senior civil servant, correctly predicted the then European Economic Community, which effectively became the EU in 1993, was headed for economic, monetary and fiscal union, with common foreign and defence policies which would constitute the greatest surrender of Britain's national sovereignty since 1066. He went on to say, community law would take precedence over our own courts, and that ever more power would pass away from Parliament to the bureaucratic system centred in Brussels. The author even predicted that the increased role of Brussels in the lives of the British people would lead to a popular feeling of alienation from government, which is an important point because I saw a recent poll which put British trust in their political system at 23%, which is the lowest confidence levels in the Western world. But shockingly, politicians were advised not to exacerbate public concern by attributing unpopular measures to the remote and unworkable managings of the EEC. They were told to preserve the impression that the British government was still calling the shots rather than an unelected body of foreign politicians, and that the ruse would last for this century at least, that's the 20th century, by which time Britain would be so completely chained to Brussels it would be impossible to leave. Is this looking familiar? Document 301048, which is now being declassified under the 30-year rule, still shocks and angers Leavers to this day. Annabel Sanderson, Brexit expert and former advisor to Nigel Farage, said, despite all the claims from politicians of many parties that the EU was not about becoming a central state, this 1971 document shows that that is exactly what the plan was since the beginning. Remainers from Labour, Lib Dem, the Tories, the SNP need to check this out and ask themselves why they are MPs if they don't actually want to be in charge of their own country. We voted for Brexit. What needs to happen is a proper clean break from Brussels so we can once again become a sovereign nation, spending our own money on the services we need, and have Parliament and courts making and ruling on the laws. The writer and journalist Christopher Booker, one of the founders of the satirical magazine Private Eye, said, here was a civil servant advising that our politicians should connive in concealing what Heath was letting us in for, not least in hiding the extent to which Britain would no longer be a democratic country, but one essentially governed by unelected and unaccountable officials. Pretty strong. One way to create an illusion that the system was still democratic, this anonymous civil servant suggested in the report, would be to give people the chance to vote for new representatives at European, regional and local levels. A few years later, we saw the creation of an elected European Parliament, and we see today a craze for introducing elected mayors as meaningless local figureheads. Yep, the pro-EU Sir Edward Heath was leader of the Conservative Party from 1965 to 1975. He died in 2005. In 2015, he was named as part of Wiltshire Police's Operation Conifer investigation into historical child sex abuse. Detectives said if he was alive, he would have been 101 at the time, 2015. He would have been interviewed under caution over 7 claims, including the alleged rape of an 11-year-old, but that no inference of guilt should be drawn from this. Operation Conifer was closed in 2017 after officers found no corroborating evidence of any sexual abuse by Sir Edward Heath and no evidence of a conspiracy. So there you are, a wee fact for you for just after lunchtime. Hope you digest it really well and stop talking shit. Thank you. Bye bye.